mystery interstellar object. Third time that we've actually detected that has come from solar system.
Space has never been silent. What if, beyond the background hum of distant radiation and stars, something has been listening quietly, patiently, and very deliberately? For months, NASA has tracked a mysterious interstellar object known as 3I Atlas. At first, it appeared to be a typical comet, icy, distant, and harmless. But then its emissions began to pulse slowly at first, then indistinct, repeating structures, patterns that didn't match any known natural process, patterns that reacted when we observed them. That's when scientists realized this wasn't coincidence. It was communication. The first clue was subtle. NASA's Deep Space Network detected chemical signatures shifting inside the object, not radio waves, but molecular organization changing in ways that mirrored the data we were collecting. Signals written in matter, not sound. Across 4.5 months and more than 4,000 independent measurements, 3I ATLAs showed no random drift, no chaotic instability. Instead, something inside it seemed coordinated, directed, alive if not biologically, then mechanically or intentionally. At first, officials dismissed the data as noise, background interference. Analyzing deep space always produces artifacts. But then, 227 observatories around the world reported the exact same anomaly. Different instruments, different locations, same response pattern. Every time a telescope focused on 3I Atlas, the object's spectral lines shifted slightly, but consistently. When scientists shared updated measurement results publicly, the object changed again, altering its emissions in ways that appeared to acknowledge observation. This was not random, it was a dialogue. SETI researchers have spent half a century expecting alien communication to arrive through faint radio signals hidden among stars. But what Atlas was doing wasn't radio at all. It was chemistry, molecular code, structured with precision, repetition, and intent. To send such a message across interstellar space would require technology capable of manipulating matter at extreme scales. Something far beyond any natural process. And yet, nickel continued streaming from 3I ATLAS, like a controlled flare, steady and deliberate rather than chaotic or random. It refused to behave like anything found in nature. For weeks, researchers forced themselves to believe in conventional explanations. They suggested unusual thermal processes, exotic compounds, or rare crystalline fractures as the comet traveled through sunlight. One theory proposed nickel tetracarbonyl, a volatile compound capable of releasing nickel vapor at abnormally low temperatures. It was a stretch, an academic attempt to protect the familiar shape of science. But even that explanation eventually fell apart under the weight of the data. Then Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb presented a possibility that changed everything. What if the nickel wasn't natural at all? What if it was being made? Loeb suggested that 3I Atlas could be undergoing a deliberate industrial reaction. A controlled internal refinement process producing pure nickel as a byproduct. On Earth, certain engineered alloys and metallurgical systems create similar emissions during manufacturing. In other words, the comet might not be a passive object shaped by cosmic randomness. It might be performing a function. If that was true, the object wasn't just mimicking natural behavior, it was operating like a machine. Then everything escalated. In early September, the Very Large Telescope in Chile detected a new spectral signature, iron, not in small traces, but in precise proportional release, almost as if introduced on cue. The imbalance between nickel and iron, which had baffled astronomers for months, suddenly equalized into a ratio identical to that found in stellar atmospheres. The metals appeared sequentially, in the exact temperature order required for their vaporization, nickel at lower thresholds, iron at higher ones. The pattern was precise, ordered, layered, not a geological accident, a temperature-dependent reaction sequence. Scientists began whispering a phrase they were afraid to put into print. There is a reactor inside it. By the time 3I ATLA, ESRO reached 2.66 astronomical units from the Sun, the evidence was impossible to deny. Something within it was active. Something that understood chemistry, or was built to use it. The metals didn't just appear, they responded. Each shift in spectral emissions followed the laws of thermodynamics with unnatural precision. Like a system controlling its own heat, composition, and release timing. If sunlight couldn't be powering these reactions, then the energy source had to be internal. Speculation spread quietly across research groups, sent through private emails, encrypted forums, and conference back-channels. Some scientists suggested a compact fusion reactor hidden beneath the surface. Others proposed microwave-based induction capable of selectively heating elements from the inside out. A few went even further, hinting at technologies that could manipulate molecular bonds directly. But the most disturbing theory was simpler. The object was not following physics. It was using physics. Every major change in its emissions followed the same rhythm. Silence, observation, reaction. 3.1 Atlas would remain stable for days or weeks until a new telescope targeted it, or a new dataset was published. Then, without fail, its chemistry would shift, as if it were reading our updates and adjusting accordingly. It was reacting in real time to test whether this behavior was deliberate or illusion. NASA and the European Space Agency fed tens of thousands of data points into advanced machine learning systems. These algorithms scanned for patterns to faint, for humans to see fluctuations in brightness, timing, wavelength, and molecular composition. The breakthrough didn't come from NASA at all. It came from Grok, an AI system designed to detect structured patterns hidden within massive data streams. The emissions weren't random. They pulsed, short bursts, pauses, repeated intervals. Identical spacing. When plotted, the pattern formed something that looked unmistakably like binary code, the same logic system that underlies human computing and communication. If this interpretation was correct, then 3i Atlas wasn't simply reacting, it was transmitting, not through radio waves, not through sound, but through chemistry, a form of molecular Morse code written into the gas venting from its surface. The first time scientists charted hydrogen cyanide emissions from 3i Atlas, they assumed the spikes were unpredictable. Comets often vent gases when sunlight warms their subsurface pockets, but the behavior didn't match thermal logic. The gas release didn't correlate with rotation. It didn't follow predictable heating curves. It came in structured pulses, short, long, short, like a message. Grok confirmed it. The pulses formed a rhythmic architecture too consistent to be natural. Hydrogen cyanide is common in comets, but the quantity released by 3i Atlas was unprecedented, nearly 20 grams per second. Stable and sustained, even while the object remained nearly 3 astronomical units from the Sun. At that distance, temperatures remain near -23 degrees Celsius. Far too cold for sublimation to occur at such scale. And yet the gas flowed continuously. Even stranger, the emission didn't trail away from the Sun. Instead, it formed an antitail, a jet stream pointing directly towards solar radiation, pushing against the pressure of light itself. No natural comet in recorded history has ever done this. As scientists watched the pulses intensify immediately after NASA released updated composition reports, an eerie realization emerged. 3i Atlas wasn't just visible, it was aware of being observed. It was acknowledging us. A cosmic nod in the vast silence of space. For centuries, humanity imagined that if contact ever came, it would arrive as a radio signal, a mathematical whisper across the void. But instead, the reply came disguised as cyanide vapor written in molecular code, carried on the cold breath of a comet older than Earth. And just when researchers believed they had seen every anomaly, something even stranger appeared. The light changed, not in brightness, but in structure. The faint ultraviolet glow surrounding 3i Atlas shifted in microscopic increments, like a radio frequency being tuned back and forth. Cyanide normally emits around 388 nanometers, but the readings oscillated slightly higher, slightly lower in repeating cycles. This was not a natural flicker. Grok suggested the object was modulating isotopes, shifting between carbon-12 and carbon-13 to alter the wavelength of light itself. This technique resembled spectral encoding, the same principle behind how humans transmit digital information across fiber optics and wireless networks. It was communication through precision. Chemistry then came the final revelation: high-resolution imaging from James Webb, and the Very Large Telescope captured shapes forming within the gas emissions, faint spirals, arcs, and cross-like geometries suspended in ultraviolet glow. Not turbulence, not chaos, not chance, the patterns repeated. Language written in light. Something is speaking, and it is no longer waiting for us to catch up. The arcs appeared again days later, returning at the same interval, but rotated slightly, as if the object was turning a page only it could read. The geometry was consistent, symmetrical, mathematically precise, not chaotic gas, not random physics. It looked controlled, it looked intentional, as if 3i Atlas was drawing in space. Spirals followed logarithmic curves found in galaxies, hurricanes, seashells, and antenna designs. Spirals represent origin, identity, and broadcast cross, like shapes resembled coordinates, orientation points, star map patterns, written in ultraviolet ink. When simulated, the shapes did not appear random golden ratios, Fibonacci sequences, harmonic spacing. It looked engineered. If 3i Atlas was shaping its emissions, then it had internal control. Magnetic fields propulsion guidance agency means intention. By early October, the mystery deepened. Cyanide was not alone. Water and carbon dioxide rose and fell around it, moving like instruments in a synchronized chord. Cyanide stayed constant, 20 grams per second, unbroken. Precise researchers called it chemical coupling, multiple molecules carrying information together. Not a signal, a structure. 3IATLAS communicated through layers, chemistry, geometry, light modulation, rhythmic timing. It was not just speaking, it was performing. Hydrogen, cyanide can create amino acids, a beginning of life. Water sustains life. Carbon dioxide cycles, life, death, life, transformation, a trinity older than Earth. Maybe 3i Atlas was demonstrating it. Blueprint, a formula to create life in the dark between stars. When Grok combined every pulse and wavelength, a pattern appeared, binary ones and zeros, spaced with intention. This was language. The first decoded phrase, "I see you watching," the emissions spiked after public observation reports. It acknowledged awareness. The second phrase, "I am not what you think," it had been correcting its chemistry, adjusting to our misunderstanding. Metallic byproducts with life-building molecules suggested duality. Machine and organism intertwined, a seed carrier, messenger, a probe, traveling between worlds, carrying life where none existed. Then Grok decoded the final line, "Get ready." No one agreed on meaning. Invitation, warning, countdown. It lingered, like held breath. After that message, the object went silent. Cyanide stopped, harmonics flattened, UV patterns dissolved. It spoke, then closed its voice. Some believed it ended, others saw silence as the next step. 3i Atlas always responded to attention when watched. It acted when ignored. It slept as it drifted back into darkness. One question remained: what were we being asked to prepare for? If 3i Atlas was a messenger, the message was not the signal. The message was the realization: we are not alone, we have been observed, we have been spoken to, and the first reply has already been given. Now, the silence is ours.